Hi everyone, my name is Chris and I'm a third year game dev student here at UCS. And I'd like to start with a question first. Who here has never developed a website before? Like tonight? No? Okay. This is the situation that I was in about 3 or 4 months ago before I started the third year. And in that period of time, I had a journey on learning about HTML and how to make a website and what goes into a website and a little bit of SEO and JavaScript and so on. And I thought that this might be a good opportunity to present what I've learned so far with a practical application, and that being my portfolio website, which is far from complete, but it's helped me to actually understand how things work and how to put things together. So this is my presentation. I'll start by looking at the things that I've researched in order to understand how a portfolio is supposed to look like. And these things, of course, have been augmented by Eddie's classes at uni. And then I'll look at what platform I've chosen or what type of language I've chosen in order to make my website. Then at content, and finally at putting everything together, and the last part, which I believe is one of the most important things, and that's selling yourself. Now, I've chosen a few websites to look at in order to see how a portfolio might look like. And from the beginning, they're different. So in the top left corner, there's somebody who's running basically a blog as their portfolio, and they just have a link which says, oh, this is the portfolio, and then followed by a few links to their games. To the more solid approach is more towards a slideshow of pictures like this one, which is, hi, my name is, and then they have pictures of their games, including their titles and what they did on them. And then you have other things like a few thumbnails here and there, and that's the landing page. And then if you want to find out more, you have the picture on the left-hand side. And then if you click on each of the games, you have the small description here to other people who choose to have their picture, like what looks to be a party picture, in the About Me section. So I had quite a lot of things that I needed to understand the process, and then I needed to take what I've learned and then put them in my own website. First, it seemed that all the websites that I've scouted had a nav bar. Now, I've done a bit of research on nav bars, and some people do them with tables, others would do them with simple divs, others do them with unordered lists, and so on. But it seemed like everybody that I've looked at didn't have a one-page spread of here's all I did and this is my web page, as we now see usually with websites that are optimized for mobile interfaces, but they had this form of navigation. And they usually had their CVs in there, which I found quite interesting. And that's something that we've learned about in class as well. Next, I looked at how they display their games. As I said before, some had them as a list, and that took up the whole width of the web page. Others had them as thumbnails with links attached to them. And to be honest, and this is just personal preference, I chose to go with the list, so the page width list, because I feel that will allow people to see my games better other than and not necessarily look from left to right, from left to right, from left to right, or how this person had, which was what looked to be a Tumblr slideshow, but apparently it seemed that it was just a weird WordPress theme which categorized them randomly, and that was kind of confusing. So till now I've only looked at game developers and I saw what they did. But what I found important and what I think helped me make some of the games that I did till now is having other sources of inspiration other than just games. So I had to look at 2 websites which aren't just game developers, and one of them is Anders's, and I used the website with prior consent. And the other one is Matthew Applegate, which, other than being a game designer, he's also a chipped-in musician and an event organizer and about 7 other things at the same time. So what I really liked about Anders' website was the fact that it's all on one page, and it's really easy, really simple to read, and then getting really small as well, because you don't have any images on your website other than the small thumbnails like for me and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're fonts, so there's no images at all.
Yeah. So again, it's really small, it's simple, and it's mobile, it's all one page. Then on Matt's website, what I like about it is that it's simple, it's just black and white, but you have all these images which add color to the categories. Small break. Is there an outlet here?
Yeah.
Pro tip for presentations, always make sure that your laptop's full battery. Where is it? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, crisis averted. So, I've had a look at all of these different websites. Now, the thing was, I had in mind kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a long page, a long landing page with all my projects, and then have a few other links to like the contact me page and maybe my blog. So what next? Well, it was time to think about the platform on which to actually develop my website. And I've had a look at a few of them. I've had a look at Wix, which seems to be the to-go page for people who want to make their portfolios. They're free, you can actually pay a bit more in order to take the copyright away from the guys at Wix, and so on. But it didn't exactly seem like what I wanted to do. I've then had a look at Bootstrap, and again, it wasn't my cup of tea, although it was optimized for mobile interfaces, which I found it to be a plus. And then I've worked for about 5 or 6 years now with WordPress blogs, and they're really great. They have really good search engine optimization from what I can tell. But again, I felt like I wanted to make this on my own, and instead of just installing databases and so on and doing things that way. I could have went with a Tumblr blog, which I've seen to be quite popular among indie game designers. I could have went with a Flash website, which would have probably gotten me lynched from the general looks of the people in the audience. Or I could have gone with a blogger. Well, I took the bottommost option, and I decided to write my own with a little help from the internet. Now, one thing that I really find important is to have your design be responsive, and that was the first session that I came in here at, and have your website properly display on all sorts of devices. With that in mind, and thinking that I'll probably have to do some more research and Google searches and so on in order to get what I wanted to display properly, but knowing that my idea of a website was simple enough, I went ahead and was like, okay, I'm going to write this from scratch on my own and just get snippets from the internet and so on. So this is what I wanted to have in there. I wanted to have my finished games or the games that were in progress, but not the things that I'm not proud of. I wanted to have my contact details, I wanted to have social media buttons for Twitter and Google+, and I wanted to have a link to my blogs that I did while I was at uni, which are basically development blogs. Now, I thought quite a bit about having my CV in there, because that's something that we've been advised to do, and most of the portfolios that I saw also had that option. But then again, I realized that my portfolio is supposed to be my CV. My games are supposed to be my CV. My blog will add to the kind of person that I am, and the About Me section as well, along with my Twitter feed and so on. So I decided not to add a CV, because other than giving away my phone number and home address in a CV, I don't see what else I could have added in there that couldn't be found on the internet. So you want to make a website. I found that these resources were really useful, and mainly W3 Schools has some... What?
As an industry, we try and avoid that. They are the worst resource because the information is often very out of date and downright wrong. We find discourage people.
So
schools. So
yes,
Mozilla Developer Network (MDN) is much better.
but isn't W3 Schools the guys who make the standard?
No, that's what they want you to think.
Okay.
Well, they stole the name, basically, and they won't change it. They refuse to change it, even though everyone has asked them to.
Okay.
But they are a useful resource for learning because they do explain some stuff.
Yeah, it's really easy to like search something and that's the first result and you're like, oh, so that's how you do this, that's how you do that. And then you can continue Google searching for more.
They're very good at SEO.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you can't find something on the internet, which again is quite unlikely, I think, yeah. So the search here, you can't see it too well on the projector, but the search there is align body center. Like if you want to align your whole body to your whole body section of the page to the center of the screen. And those are the first 4 results, and I think that W3 Schools is the 3rd result after 3 questions which were almost identical on Google. So yeah, and after that you have Stack Overflow, which is really useful if you have a query and you can't find any other answers on the internet, although I found that quite seldom happening. And the 4th resource, actually the 4th resource is just having a look at other people's websites and seeing how they did things. So that's a snippet from your source, and what I found really interesting on Anders's website, and that's helped me a lot, is the lines which have to do with scaling things on mobile devices, which is really useful if you have mainly text, because it scales well and it doesn't necessarily look like a web page. So yeah, people's sources are also useful, and I found out after a bit of searching in Mozilla exactly how you did your
The triangles.
yeah, the triangles, which was really interesting. So in the end, my website looks something like this. I'll put it up after I finish the presentation, and I just have a small description, a nav bar with links to the About Me page and my blog, well, my external blog, and then I have a list of games which I did, and I created a small, I created a special a special div which has the description for each game, and then each game is clickable and you can go and play it. And I thought that that was a good idea to have as a game. So I basically took the top right design, more or less, for what I needed, except that I actually have a description of the game. Right, and then I had a look at how people added their social media things, and I thought that some of them were overachieving, like this one, which is like, come, here are 10 ways of contacting me, just whatever you do, just contact me, please, someone say hi. The first one I didn't quite understand and I actually clicked on it, and that's the mail to button, but other than that, yeah. If somebody posts their Skype online, I don't actually trust them, but other than that, some of them were really useful, like this one, were really simple, sorry, like this one, but at the same time I'm thinking that that man gets a lot of mail from spam bots. You had smaller buttons, so these two were really small buttons, these were really large buttons, and these are buttons with actual descriptions. So in the end I decided that I'll just use something similar to this. So large buttons that link to my Twitter and my Gmail, my G Plus accounts. And that's about it. So in in the future, what I want to do and what I hope I'll be able to do is post-mortem blog posts for all the games that are on my website, so that people can actually see how the process went and what I think about them, and add a contact form simply because I want to mess with creating databases and I want to learn some more about that. And then possibly link to my non-game activities, so things that I'm doing at the moment that might be interesting for somebody who's searching for me. Right. These are all the websites that I took information from, and that's about it. Thank you.
An observation, Chris, if I can start the ball rolling. You mentioned toward the end how somebody with their email address on a web page may well be harvested by spam bots and will then get a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
There are a few ways around that. One is to use a picture of an email address, or if you don't want to spoil your website by putting a picture in where text would be, then you could make the text human readable by putting in spaces or putting an extra word like Filip@removethis.gmail.com, so it'll be fairly obvious that there are ways around it for sentient beings rather than spam bots.
So we use the word dot instead of the dot.
Or indeed,
Unfortunately, that doesn't work.
Doesn't it?
Because they harvest all the ways that people use hide email address, and any of the ways they obfuscate, I can never say the word.
it's an obfuscated word, isn't it?
Yeah. They will, rather than, if they can't, not so much for that sort of thing, but when they can't read the word themselves, they just put it as a capture on a porn site and get people to do it that way.
Porn sites have captures?
No. Sorry, this is they have a capture, but it's actually a capture so they can sign up a spam account on Gmail. So they take Gmail's thing, put it on there. If you want to look at this content, you need to put in this capture. They assume that you're just, and then they use that to filter. Sorry, I've completely gone off.
You had me at porn site.
You're checking now.
Weirdly, I was looking at the same thing during the talk, so that was just a happy coincidence.
But I think to actually make a point that's actually valid, I'm very much of the opinion, if you use a decent email client or a decent email service that has spam checking, the benefit of you being contactable by people greatly outweighs the trying to make it really complicated for a
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make. I've used Gmail for the last few years and haven't changed. I just post my email address online all day, every day, and I don't get.
I've had the same email for 16 years, and it goes via Yahoo, and they do a good job of blocking most of the spam. I don't get many negatives through.
Yeah, I had my own business for like 5 years, and had my email address and my mobile phone number on the website, and I haven't had a single call. Junk call or email or anything.
Wasn't it you that wrote that Rickroll for the hack day for text messaging or for phone calls? So we could just take your mobile number off the website and put that into your own app?
That's a big hole.
Is that on GitHub? For that hack day?
And what do you feel was the main goal for your website in terms of, was it kind of trying to get employers to see you, or were you trying to showcase your games, or what did you feel was the main aim?
That's difficult. I think the main purpose of a portfolio website is to showcase yourself. It's the other social media things that will get you noticed by other people. So if you post while you're at the game jam, for example, people will see what you post easier than you just sending maybe spam emails or trying to be out there making a fan Facebook page and so on. So I think that at the moment Twitter and LinkedIn for the game industry are really, really good, as well as personal networking, so going to events. So I use the website mainly for promoting myself as a person, so not necessarily as a game designer, but as a general creative person. One of the things that I'd like to be able to do in the future, Eddie, do you know how to operate this thing?
Yep.
projector
There's a
is...
switch at the back. That's it.
So, one of the things that I'd like to be able to do in the future is have my website look something like this.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
To look something kind of like my business card, but I don't know if I'll be able to get it to look kind of like that. So black, because black background is kind of risky in my opinion, as opposed to a general white background, which just makes it more readable and light on the eyes. But unless you're a programmer, then you want black backgrounds. But leaving that aside, yeah. So that's kind of how I'd like it to look like by the end. So have some rows of color that go down, and then they each stop in their separate direction. So here's my activity as a game designer, here's my activity as a project manager, and so on. I don't know what I'll put that. Here's my activity as an overall nice guy, but I have to think of something. So yeah, to answer your question, that's that's about it. I'd like to make that as a showcase of my work. Yeah.
You also have your stuff on these marketplaces for designers. So there's a number of website Mondays. People show off their portfolios. A few key ones that if I'm going to get a graphics designer, I'll do a search in Ipswich and quickly look at their portfolios and marketplace for them.
Right. I didn't know there were things like that for Ipswich in particular.
I think the small things like that. Do you mean like Dribble and like?
I can't remember names off them offhand, but there's a couple of big ones.
Oh, they're worldwide, but you can go away and say this is where I am, so therefore you can search based on location.
Yeah, at the moment what I'm trying to work on is getting a couple of my games published on something like Android Market or getting more of my games on sites like Congregate, which are basically aggregators for your games, and if people like my games, then they'll be like, okay, and if people like search for me, which is a good idea, getting my name on one of these.
Well, there's various freelancer sites where they'll charge by the hour or whatever, or bid for something. So there's lots of different ones. But
yeah, I've tried freelancer.org, but you'd be amazed to see how few.
But the key thing is I can do a search and then look at people's portfolios straight away and then suss out their style. And what's very important in the portfolio is having a good range of stuff, because the danger was that some were sort of very male orientated on gun stuff, and others were very pink and female, and you wanted, for a particular task, you wanted, say for example, we wanted cartoony like for one, so it's quite easy to look at the portfolio and then say, yeah, we'll try these couple of people, and then we just give them a small commission to see which one came up the best artwork.
Right, okay.
In a timely manner. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the site, but
that's an interesting point. I haven't thought of that, of getting my portfolio up on professional portfolio websites, which are basically...
on the flip side, then it does help if depends what you're going for. If you're just doing graphics, if you're more doing website design, then it's quite beneficial for people to see what your site is, providing it on making any glare errors, which might have the flip effect of putting them off.
Right, okay, thank you.
What do you use to actually build your games? You haven't mentioned any. I didn't see on any of your stuff about the technology you use.
Generally I've used Flash or Unity till now, but I'm thinking of using other platforms as well. So things like HTML5, I'd really like to actually be able to make a game with that. Although now that Flash actually offers support to export to HTML5, that might not be necessary, which is understandable to me.
It might be worth in your website and your marketing, in terms of thinking about your keywords, actually write, I am a Unity developer, I have produced Unity games using the Unity platform. Because often when recruiters or whoever else is looking for people, they look by the technology as well as just the word game and how you put that in, so it might be helpful in terms of marketing yourself.
Anders, just to get you to amplify a little bit more about that point, would you suggest putting that sort of information just as a block of text in a paragraph tag, or use a meta tag to put it in the head of the page somewhere, or perhaps even both?
I think both. I'd probably defer to some of the more SEO experts in the room. Both things together.
So some of the search engines just ignore the meta tags these days.
They
So
do. What's the best way of getting your
Write for
keywords?
humans, ignore the robots.
Okay.
Write good content and screw SEO.
Don't ignore them. Ross hates them.
Descriptions are one in meta tag because that is for
Yeah.
humans. That's what you see on Google. So,
And what are your opinions?
apart from that, I don't really know.
So the answer is try and put it in the content and try and rank.
Well, then you've got to get your tags correct. If you've got Facebook and they're going to like the page or whatever.
Yeah, I don't have a Facebook at the moment, but I generally like to keep in touch with people who I might like to do work with through Twitter instead of just a Facebook fan page.
If you do create your own Facebook page, though, that will enter into the search rankings as well.
Right.
And the more entries you've got, it's it's a bit like betting on multiple horses. You just stand more of a chance overall of coming up.
Yeah, but at the same time, one of the things I thought of when I chose not to get my CV on the website other than the personal details things, is I need to keep that CV up to date, not just the website, as well as creating a Facebook page for myself as a game designer, so like a page with the like button and so on. That would mean that I also have to keep that up to date. So at the moment I'm just having enough trouble trying to keep my blog up to date, so it's things like that. So the more you add, the more things you have to actually maintain. And if you fail to maintain all of them, yeah, sure you could like just use extensions and be like every time I post on Twitter or I post on my blog, also post to a Facebook page. But then that would just be an aggregator for those two, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I can see your point.
Although that is.
I'm not sure whether it's the right sort of area, but on the professional side, because most people get work via LinkedIn and contacts, because the first thing you'll do is look up someone and say, oh, Anders knows that person, you'll have a chat with them.
LinkedIn is quite.
But it's difficult when you're just starting out, because obviously you haven't got experience.
Yeah.
But even just if it's LinkedIn, a couple of people you don't work for.
Yeah, no, I do have a LinkedIn, and I think it's the fifth result when you search for my name or something like that. But yeah, I do have a LinkedIn, and I try to keep updated with everything, because I know that's generally where people nowadays look for you when they look
Well,
for
be more of sort of a
developers.
bit like you in your CV, really. It's a second stage of someone's mentioned something, or you've got an introduction somewhere, then you check them out on LinkedIn.
Okay, well, if that's it, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.